Welcome to All Clear, the podcast that takes you beyond the rails. Brought to you by the team at Australian Jumping, this podcast dives into the stories, the people, and the horses shaping our sport. Whether you're a seasoned competitor or simply love the thrill of the clear round, All Clear delivers the conversations that matter. Hit subscribe and join us for a fresh perspective on the sport you love. Today we're joined by Phil Lever, who's our current Australian Senior Champion, Victoria Senior Champion, and the winner of this year's Showcase of Show Jumping Grand Prix. Phil and Billionaire NZPH have become one of the combinations to beat on any given day. And in fact, the cover image for this podcast is of Phil and Billionaire after taking out last year's showcase, a moment that summed up their incredible partnership and the form that has carried them to the top of Australian jumping. Welcome, Phil.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So, Phil, growing up in the Lever family, horses and competition were part of daily life. Can you give us some insight into your early years?
Yeah, well, like you said, it was sort of straight into it from birth, like Dad was always on the road with a team of horses and showing all the time. Mum had the hats and dressage horses and things going, and I've got three brothers, and we sort of were straight into horses, were a lot of the times coming across from Perth with a team of horses and doing shows on the East Coast. That was sort of back in the Bond Derby days, and from there we moved to Europe and did all the shows and stuff in Europe with Dad on the circuit there. So yeah, from the get go, we were born into the showing and riding and jumping. So it was good.
And your dad, Laurie, is such a respected figure in Australian jumping, and he represented Australia at the Olympics. What was it like having him both as a father and as a role model in the sport?
Oh look, Dad was our hero the whole way along. Like he being a great influence for us, and for him to get to the Olympics and do what he's done in his career, it's sort of something I always sort of chase and want to sort of try and match if I can. But yeah, it's a lot. It's a big deal. You've got to have the right horse at the right time, and it's all sort of got to come together. But having him helping us the whole way along with our riding and managing horses and that stuff was great. Having him on the father figure side of things, he always sort of pushed us to try and do better and also, with the schooling and that stuff, we were never the best kids in school, but we sort of made do and jumping around from school a little bit because we were traveling a lot. But it was great. It's fantastic. And still now, like Dad always reaches out after shows when you've had a good result and also reaches out when you've had a bad result and pick you up and, get back into it.
It must have been fantastic to have that support. And then at 18 years old, you left Australia to work in Europe. What stands out most from those first few years overseas?
Yeah, it was a long time ago. The first few years definitely the first few days was pretty daunting. I sort of landed into Germany and I didn't speak the language. I was straight off teaching shows and helping and sort of doing everything in the stables. The first few years was great because I had the Bachman family really take me under their arm and sort of really help me with a lot of things, and probably more so the marriage work and the flat work of riding the show jumpers and really educating those young horses and that kind of stuff. Everything that I do now, I also think back of what they taught me and how Gilly helped me in those days. It's really shaped me as a rider. So I'm very happy and very grateful for that. And then at a stage, I sort of wanted to keep building and keep going further and more into the sport and finally get further along. So, I really felt that I got to a stage at that stable where I needed to branch out and try and go and do something else.
Did the time at those stables help you with your approach to managing a business as well?
Kind of that I sort of, managing a business, but also the way they manage their staff, the way they looked after their staff. I looked always at the good things that they did, and also the things that I think we could improve, and I sort of tried to use that to mould what I've got and what Frida and I are doing now in the business. We're grateful that we have really good staff, and we're grateful that we've had staff that have been with us for a long period of time. So I think, those sort of things and how they ran the business, they're fantastic business people. And each stage along in my career, whether it was from working at Bachman's or working at Tops or working at Axel Valois, I've taken each little sort of piece of the puzzle, you could say, and tried to sort of make my own puzzle.
Yeah, absolutely. And you met your partner Frida in Europe, and obviously that was a major turning point in your life. And Frida comes with her own impressive background in the sport. How do your individual experiences complement each other in the way that you run the business today, do you think?
I think we've seen a lot of the sport, and we've worked for a number of different stables, and how we complement each other in the sport. Yeah, I would sort of say we have very much the same morals in the sport, and how we want to see ourselves in the sport, and also how we want to, how the standard we want to keep our horses at, and our clients at, and just keep, we just try to keep molding it, keep making it better and better and better all the time. So it works really well.
And you run a strong program for both riders and horses. And what would you say the keys are to maintaining the consistency and the quality across all the moving parts of a business like you guys run together?
Probably that there's no shortcut. There's early mornings and late evenings, and you everything you put into it, you get back. So every moving part, like you can't leave one box done. You've just got to keep moving, keep riding, making sure that the horses are looking good, they're fit, they're healthy, they're jumping well, and then it's the same. It snowballs into your clients as well. So that they see you putting the time and the work and the effort in. They also see that they have to do the same thing, and it's the same also with our staff. You've just got to be a role model through the whole lot.
Before we continue with this chat, I would like to thank Divas Beverages for sponsoring this podcast and for all they do for our jumping community. Divas Beverages is a business that truly gives back to the sport we love. Visit divasbeverages.com.au to explore their full range of carefully crafted premium beverages. Now back to our guests. Going on to the horses, and we'll just talk about Billionaire first. He has been such a standout partner for you so far, and what is it that makes him so special, and how's your partnership developed over time?
Look, I think he is a bit of a quirky character. He will. It took me a little bit of, well, it probably doesn't seem like it, but after a couple of months of having him in the stable, he ran second at the Australian Championships, which was fantastic result. But I really didn't have the best connection with him then. Yes, we had a really good result, but still, I feel now, 12 months later when he won the Australian Championships, it was a lot better connection. I knew the horse a lot better. I knew where he could be. I'd also taken him from being quite a slow horse that was definitely not quick against the clock. The first few shows I struggled to get him under the time allowed. And then now we've been able to, form this bit of a partnership that yes, now I can, even in a speed class, I can go quick and I can really put pressure on other riders and horses and things like that. And then, in jump off now, I feel that he's got a lot more maneuverable he's just developed, and our partnership's just developed. Like the last few Grand Prix that I've had with him, I really felt like I could put him anywhere I wanted to in the course, and he would just let me ride in every single stride around the arena.
And you had a fantastic result at Waratah in the Grand Prix, coming second to Sam, but it was a really very close class. And how did you find that particular World Cup? We had the international course designer. Did that make much of a difference to you?
Look, I'll first be going the class, so that will probably actually work to my benefit. So I made my plan. I walked the course. I made my plan with Frida. We really sort of walked a few distances. We really said, okay, right, this is what we're going to stick to. This is the plan. We're going to just go in the ring and ride and just stick to it. Ride what we've discussed. You know, there was a few options there in the course. It was actually a bit funny. I was walking out of the after the I walked the course, and I bumped into the course builder Anderson, and I was sort of going through the plan a little bit in my head, and he stopped and he said, "Say that again." And so I sort of basically told him my plan, and he said, "Yeah, the 7 in the first round to the last bench will definitely ride a lot better than the 6." So I sort of knew that I had the plan that I wanted. Um, the jump off was probably it was a little bit difficult in one way because I sort of had two really fast horses after me. I knew that Sam would always in every class with Ed, he is going out there to win. And that's sort of a little bit the tricky one that was after me. And Gemma, you just never know with Gemma. She can pull things out of the bag that are brilliant, and especially with that horse. I thought I put enough pressure on. If I was to go after Sam, I probably would have done the 6 strides down the first line in the jump off and tried to be a little bit more on it. But a little bit in the back of my mind, I'm also saying, okay, this is the first sort of big Grand Prix for this season. I don't really want to push him too much. We have Wollonga around the corner, which is a shock for me to get the last part of my NER. So I would sort of have that a little bit in the back of my mind that I wanted to be good in this Grand Prix, but I don't necessarily have to sacrifice everything.
You talked about your MER. Is that something that you are hoping to put your hand up, I guess, for World Championships? Is that the big goal at the moment?
Look, that it's something in the back of our mind. We're not saying yes, we're not saying no, but I want to get my MER. If closer to the time that's something that we want to go down, then it's better to have it in my pocket here in Australia than to try and chase it in Europe.
Yeah. So beyond Billionaire, can you just talk us through some of the other horses that you've got in your stable right now and any that we should be keeping our eye on?
I have a really cool older mini pre-horse, Momenteco. He's just a lot of fun. He's very entertaining horse that goes. He's just a really cool horse to have on the track. He's definitely no superstar, but he's a very good horse. We have a lot of sort of younger horses coming through. We're actually arriving next week. We've sort of acquired two really nice horses coming from Europe, which we're very excited about. And then, we have a couple of other. Frida's got quite a few nice younger ones now that are sort of 7 or 8 years old that we believe are going to be some really nice horses.
Oh, that's excellent. I know some of the things I've read, you've spoken previously about wanting, to see Australia win an Olympic medal in jumping, I guess, as we all do. And I'm just going to inject into our conversation that we have a question that we ask each of our guests to ask the next guest, not knowing who they are. And for this one, I just want to see if we can delve into this question a little bit more deeply because I think it's well suited for you. George Sanner was my previous guest, and he wanted to know what the next guest thinks that Australia can do, and what needs to happen in the next few years for us to be a nation that can excel on the world stage in jumping? And just wondering if you can talk to that for a little bit.
Yeah. So, a little bit my thoughts on it. How many more Olympic Games are we going to have equestrian sports? So, there's a little bit of a question in the question. Um, beyond Brisbane, we don't know. So, a little bit what all I'd be turning around to anyone and sort of saying is, okay, hypothetically, if Brisbane was the last chance we had of winning a medal, and Los Angeles and Brisbane were the last chances of winning a medal, what would we go to try and make that happen? Could we get anyone that is interested at all, or has a passion, or wants to see that happen, that believes we can do it? How do we back riders? How do we find horses? How do we throw everything we possibly can at this to make it happen? So my belief is, you know, we have to chase it now with everything we've got, because after the next two Olympics, it might not be there.
Yeah. So it's really about, I guess, the finances and the ability to find the right horses. I guess it comes down to the horsepower at the end of the day, doesn't it?
Look, I think in it, yes, it definitely comes down to the horsepower. Australia has some unbelievably good riders. Whether it's internationally or nationally, we have fantastic riders. We have world-class riders. We find it very difficult because we're on the other side of the planet from the actual part of the sport. Internationally. But if we have to try and find a pathway for these horses and riders that's a little bit more accessible. Or I put it back to my situation. Like, it's very difficult for me. I've built a business in Australia, for me to go with Billionaire to Europe to try and chase a world championships. I can't throw it all on feeder and leave it completely. I have to somehow keep my business running, whether I have to be able to put the horse in Europe and be able to fly backwards and forward. It throws a whole lot of different things into your mind, and how do we turn around and try and make that more accessible for riders?
And do you think that it's imperative that the riders need to be spending a lot of time in Europe, or I guess predominantly Europe, but Europe and the US, to get the experience before something like World Championships and the Games?
Look, horses and riders need 4 or 5 star start. So, we need to really be up and jumping and going, you want to try and mix it with the best in the world. You can't try and do it on one occasion. You've got to be trying to do it, you know, 8 months out for the whole 8 months leading in. And then we also have to have horses that are, we've got to be able to keep them sound. We've got to be able to rest some horses to get to that potentially could be on the team to be ready to jump at a championship. We can't just completely burn them out on the way into a championship because we're trying to get the experience.
Any other thoughts on that around our prospects for LA and then on to Brisbane?
I think at this stage, if you wanted to go to Brisbane and everything like that, and LA, and I can give any advice to any other riders, try and find some good owners and some good backers, and try and go and buy the best young horses you can find, and work hard and produce them up really well. I mean, take your time. They don't have to be 8-year-old Grand Prix horses. They can be 12, 13, 14-year-old Grand Prix horses. But you have to try and make the best you can and get the funding behind you that you can buy the best quality possible at the beginning.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think you answered George's question really well there. Thank you. That I was hoping that you would be the right person to answer that, and you certainly were.
No problem.
So, have you got a question that you could leave for our next guest?
As well as making the horses and things and riders in Australia and that stuff, most of the time when the horses go overseas, they get sold. So at the top, in history, if you look at the last 20 years, of the top horses that we've had, they've all gone to a championship, gone over, got sold. So we never have this depth in the sport that keeps rolling from one championship to the next championship to the next. So we don't have the experienced horse in the championships unless it's Edwina or Tiger or Hillary, So how do we? I'm probably answering my own question, but how do we get that we can keep those horses?
I think that's fantastic, Phil. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me today. I really appreciate it, and I really look forward to seeing you guys down at Willinga. I wish you all the best for the competitions ahead, and I'm sure we will see a lot more of you over the months and years to come. Thanks, Phil.
No, thank you very much.